let's talk about statement of work. So obviously, in a broader description, services procurement could include, for example, contingent workforce.
Exactly.
But in the context, I'm talking about any service procured under a statement of work.
Exactly.
Consultancy, professional services, whatever. Yeah.
So I think, so if you just look at, let's take that and then let's come back to the tech piece in a second as well.
Okay.
Statement of work, I think, given IR35 now and what's happened recently, which was always going to be the case, statement of work is now back in vogue. So all of a sudden, all the recruitment companies are talking about statement of work as well as contingent workforce. And the conversations I've had with quite a lot of recruiters is recruitment firms at a decent scale saying, well, I'll just sell statement of work, it's fine. And I say, let's just unpick that as a buyer. So as a buyer, I'm now buying, if you're buying contingent work, you're basically buying activity. It's more sophisticated, but you're buying a worker. You want someone to fill a role as a contractor for a period of time. And the client manages that contractor.
Yep.
And the job of
time and materials.
Exactly, it's T&M. And the job of the recruitment company or the MSP is to find high quality resources. And it works really well. But when I come to buy statement of work or services, I'm buying an output or an outcome. That's completely different because I'm asking you now as an organization, whoever's providing it, to take on some risk. Because if you fail to deliver the output, well, I'm going to claw back part of your fee. If you fail to hit the outcomes, I'll claw back part of your fee. If anything goes wrong from a governance point of view, I'm going to claw back part of your fee. I want the ability to terminate you if you fail to deliver against certain requirements. That's very different than selling a contingent worker. And I think agencies know this, they understand the concept, but operationalizing that and understanding the risk and how you manage statement of work is completely different. So if an agency came to me who's a contingent workforce agency, said, oh, we've now got an SoW capability, I'd listen to them. But given that I've been in consulting for 25 years, I know a bit about buying outcomes and buying outputs. So they're going to have a hell of a job convincing me that they've got program managers and program directors that can run a governance model that can deliver for my internal stakeholders, that have got the systems in place that allow me to track what's going on, rather than just being a recruiter. Because it's a completely different game.
Totally different game. Sorry to cut across it. I was going to say, so when it comes to using systems, obviously that's what we do. We're a system for managing the full kind of statement of work life cycle for any of that type of services procurement delivery.
Yep.
But when we talk to recruiters, what we see is we tend to see two different models with this. So we'll see, actually three different models. One is where you've got a company that's got X million spend and they just want to outsource the problem to a neutral vendor to provide a fully managed service around that whole spend category, a bit like they do with contingent workforce. The second scenario is where you've got a recruitment intermediary that's dealing with more, I wouldn't say spot business, but maybe smaller clients or pockets of business. For example, in relation to IR35, where they say, we were getting this work done with contractors, they're all inside IR35, therefore we need to outsource this work to a supplier and get it done under a statement of work. And in those cases, it's still the supplier that's taking on the liability for the work. But in terms of what you're describing, that I would class that as, it's almost like project services, really, consulting services, where they're taking the liability for the actual delivery. And you're right, it's a very, very different game. The whole SoW piece is a very different game.
And I think when we get into that, buying services, statement of work, if there's an agency in the middle, and again, so from a risk point of view, as a buyer, what do I look at? I'd say, take even some relatively simple project work that needs to be done. If there's an agency sat there and me as a brand pays the agency, and then agency is paying the statement of work or the consultancy provider, in that moment, if the agency fails and I've paid the agency and the consultancy team haven't been paid, now what happens? Because the consultancy team will hold back deliverables until payment, but I've already paid because the agency's failed. So I think the commercial model that's going to be adopted as well around, if there's a statement of work agency that's basically saying, yes, I can take this work on, or we have a team that can take it on, but it's a third party, you get into this kind of like, do we pay the agency margin only for securing the resource team? And then we have a contract relationship with the resource team and pay the agency a margin only fee, which is a finder's fee. Because as a buyer, I'd feel much happier talking to the people doing the work and having a contract with them than I would an agency that I don't know or can't manage the risk of financially.